All right, good morning everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Brandon Hill, and I'm the Public Information Officer for the response. This morning, we will be discussing the ongoing operations to extinguish the fire aboard the Grande Costa d'Avorio. Today's speakers will be Captain Zita Merchant. She's the captain of the Port of Newark and New Jersey and the Federal On-Scene Coordinator. Second, we have Fritz Fraget, the Newark Public Safety Director. Next, we have Tom Weicker. He's the president of Gallagher Marine Systems and a representative for the ship owner and operator. And then next, we have Beth Ann Rooney, the port director of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. After the statements are complete, we will open the floor to for questions for about 5 minutes. And once we get to that point, just have you please state your name and your affiliate before asking your question. So at this time, I will turn it over to Captain Merchant.
Thank you. And good morning, and thank you for all being here. First and foremost, we as a unified command would like to extend our heartfelt condolences to the families of our fallen Newark firefighters, Wayne Brooks Jr. and Augusto Akubo. Who actually has made a ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty, and we continue to provide our thoughts and our supports to the injured firefighters and responders from Newark, Elizabeth, and Jersey City. Their commitment to safety and their communities in which they serve is truly immeasurable, and we will continue to honor their legacy in the work that we do every day here as a part of this response. The tragedy of our collective loss speaks to, in no small degree, speaks to the complexity and the dangers associated with battling a shipboard fire. As we continue to provide updates on the ongoing incident, rest assured that our utmost priority is to bring the situation under control and ensure the safety of all that is involved. I would also like to extend my sincere appreciation to Chief Jackson and the entire Newark Fire Department for their swift and decisive initial response to the incident in coordination with the numerous other fire departments that arrived on scene to support. Chief Jackson is a critical member of our unified command and is currently tending to separate matters related to the response, but I want to take this time to acknowledge the Newark Fire Department's professionalism and dedication that played a crucial role in the early stages of containment and mitigations and the potential risks and their current contributions as well. We value their partnership and collaborative efforts, which have significantly contributed to the overall response. The command priorities for this incident are clear. First and foremost, the safety of all responders is paramount. We are committed to providing a safe and secure operational environment, equipping our personnel with the necessary resources and protocols to ensure their well-being. Secondly, our focus is on suppressing and overhauling the fire on board. We have brought all resources and capabilities to bear from across the nation for the salvage and marine firefighting response. Thirdly, we are fully aware of the potential environmental impacts, including air quality, and the importance of minimizing any adverse effects to the environment. Our efforts are dedicated to containing and mitigating pollution, working closely with our environmental agencies to safeguard our waterways. Lastly, we recognize the significance of maintaining the safe continuance of maritime industry and traffic. We are actively coordinating with all port stakeholders to minimize disruptions to commerce and our entire maritime transportation system, while ensuring the safety measures are in place to protect all vessels operating in the area. By adhering to these command priorities, we strive to achieve a comprehensive and effective response that addresses the safety of responders, the protection of the environment, and the continual functioning of the maritime industry. The fire on board the Grande Costa d'Avorio has been burning now for approximately 36 hours since our agencies arrived on scene. Firefighter crews are actively working to extinguish the fire from both the pier and water side, and the vessel rep will provide an update on current operations momentarily. As a recap, the ship originally caught fire Wednesday night around 9:30 p.m. when vehicles were being loaded onto the vessel. The onboard fire suppression system was immediately activated by the crew, and the Newark Fire Department swiftly responded. With regards to our operation, salvage and specifically shipboard firefighting is an extremely complex operation and requires responders to consider long-term firefighting efforts, damage and destruction of the vessel, and environmental impacts, which is why we have brought some of the world's top salvers and marine firefighters experts here to this response. As stated, our number one priority is safety to our responders while efficiently extinguishing the fire, and this requires careful coordination for our firefighters and fire suppression mechanism being utilized. It is my duty as the captain of the port and the federal on-scene coordinator to address any situations that may threaten people, the environment, port infrastructures, while promoting safe, secure, and environmental sound port operations. As such, this incident requires a unity of effort among federal, state, and local agencies to respond and serve the entire community. This is why we have created the Unified Command consisting of the Coast Guard, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, the Newark Fire Department, and Gallagher Marine System, who is representing the ship owners and operators to respond to this incident together. Once the firefighting efforts are complete, a formal investigation will be conducted to determine the cause of the fire. At this point, all federal agencies, state, local levels, in addition to the owners of the vessels, will be working closely together to identify the root cause of the fire and the subsequent fatalities to prevent similar incidents from ever happening again. At this time, I would like to invite the Newark Public Safety Director, Frisk Frage, to the mic for a few comments representing the city as well as the Newark Fire Department.
Good morning. The City of Newark wants to thank everybody on this stage for their support, especially the coordination and collaboration to help mitigate this current matter. Currently, the City of Newark is really trying to assist the family in reference to this tragic loss of two loved ones. Unfortunately, Chief Jackson could not be here today. We were both in a meeting this morning with the families to try and coordinate the funeral and the send-off for the family. He sends his regards, and he will be here at the next meeting to discuss the collaboration reference this current situation. The families are doing well as they can be at this time. You've lost two loved ones. The entire fire department, police department, OEM, the entire public safety is mourning the loss of both these two firefighters. Going forward, we appreciate all the help and support we're getting for all the agencies, our sister firefighters from state and federal levels that are assisting us during this traumatic time for the city. We'll be advising you of the information in reference to funeral services that will be scheduled sometime next week. The families appreciate all of the support. They also want to send their regards. We will be here to assist. The only other city concerns are just the support of the families, whether it's mentally, physically, just to take the time to go forward and rebuild their lives and never forget the loved ones that they've lost. The Newark firefighters will be etched in the city's history, public safety's history, and the fire department's history forever. Lost but not forgotten. Thank you very much this time. I'd like to turn over to Tom Weichert, who will brief you on the results of the current status.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Tom Weichert. I'm with Gallagher Marine Systems. We are representing the ship owners, Grimaldi Deep Sea of Naples, Italy. First and foremost, on behalf of Grimaldi and Gallagher Marine Systems, we'd like to echo Captain Merchant's sentiments by offering our sincere condolences and thoughts to the families of the fallen firefighters and those responders who have been injured battling the fire aboard the vessel. I'd like to thank the brave firefighting crews that are out there currently and their continued efforts to keep the fire under control. We'd also like to thank the crew whose bravery and prompt response played a crucial role in containing the initial fire aboard the vessel. Gallagher Marine are listed as the incident management team for Grimaldi's U.S. Coast Guard approved vessel response plan. Additionally listed there is salvage provider Don John Smith. I'm joined here today by Gordon Lawrenson, who's been out on scene fighting the fire He serves as our subject matter expert for questions related to the firefighting. But in the interim, I'm going to give you a little bit of a background in terms of where we are today. So the firefighting update is that teams are fighting a variety of fires amongst the several decks in the superstructure, which when you look at the vessel, very easily, it's just the white part of the ship that's aft. To combat that, there's a team of 20-plus firefighters and additional salvage support who have been fighting this fire around the clock since it began. We also have a New York fire boat and other firefighting resources deployed both pier and waterside. The number of firefighters on scene today will increase by 9 personnel. Vessel stability. Currently the vessel is stable with a list to starboard side. We're continuing to monitor the status of the vessel, and actions are planned to mitigate further listing as necessary. Pollution report. There's no reported release of oil from the vessel as of yet. Yesterday morning there were some unconfirmed reports of sheen in the area, but we verified by both drone and waterside assessment that there was no sheening noted. Air monitoring, I know that for the community here there's a lot of concern over that. We have active air monitoring that's going on. There are 4 stationary air monitoring devices proximate to the ship. Additionally, we have a mobile air monitoring unit being used in the surrounding areas at the port, Marsh, Corbin, and Kellogg Streets. That's about a 1.1 mile distance from the epicenter, which is the ship. Overnight, we had 2 occurrences of sulfur dioxide readings at the stern of the ship. They were moderately above what we call actionable levels. Those levels were not seen outside the immediate area. They were seen at the stern of the vessel. We took action to move personnel away as necessary, and then when those levels became safe, we brought personnel back to the area. Otherwise, there have been no reports of excessive air quality readings around the area, even beyond that proximate to the ship. Water sampling in an abundance of caution. We're developing a plan for water sampling of known contaminants and expect that sampling will commence later this afternoon when our plan is in place. We'll monitor for byproducts and hazardous materials that may have entered the water due to firefighting activities. Finally, we'd like to reiterate that we are committed to a speedy and comprehensive resolution of this unfortunate incident. We, along with our port partners, are deploying all available resources to ensure that that happens. Beth?
Good morning. Thank you, Tom. Again, my name is Beth Rooney, and I am the Port Director for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. On behalf of the Board of Commissioners, Chairman Kevin O'Toole, Executive Director Rick Cotton, and all of the staff of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, we join in extending our sympathies to the families of the lost firefighters and our best wishes for full and complete recovery of those that were injured during this incident. From a broader port perspective, as part of the Unified Command, we're working on that common set of objectives that Captain Merchant described. In addition to what is going on scene at the fire itself, we're concerned, the Port Authority, about maintaining commerce in the rest of the port complex. To that end, we have been working closely with the Unified Command to manage and understand various impacts that may be evolving. The channel in which the vessel is tied up has been closed to ship traffic. As a result of that, there is modest amount of cargo activity that has been impacted, predominantly due to automobiles, so additional car carriers that were expected to call the port within the last 36 hours have been impacted. They remain at anchor until we can get those ships in order to work them. We're working with the stevedores and the terminal operators and the auto processors in order to work through contingency plans in order to move that cargo. As you know, our container business is really, as the second largest port in the country and the largest on the East Coast, moving the containers is vitally important to us because we are dependent upon 95% of the goods that are contained in those containers every day of our lives. The good news is that the impact on the container terminals has been completely negligible. About 99.5% of our container activity is unimpacted by these events so far. Again, we continue to monitor, and we will work closely with the terminal operators in order to mitigate any impact. We continue to work with other tenants and businesses within the area through contingency plans, but again, to keep commerce moving, the work that the Unified Command has been doing, and our thanks and praise to all of the response agencies, federal, state, and local, in order to not only address the fire, but to protect the rest of the port from further damage is greatly appreciated. So, we will continue to work, as my partners on the Unified Command, have said, until this incident is under control. And then we will, move forward and get the complete port fully up and operational as soon as we can thereafter. Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'd like to open the floor to questions. We have about 5 minutes. Please state your name, affiliation, and who your question is directed toward. Yes, in front.
Good morning, Darla Miles, WABC-TV, Channel 7 Eyewitness News. 2 questions. First, what is the projected timeline to have the fire out, if there is one? And secondly, regarding the protocol and procedure at the time that sent these 2 firefighters into the ship, this was essentially a structure fire. These are used cars. Under what circumstances should they have been inside of the ship fighting this fire at all? Because there was no threat of loss of life at the time.
Okay, ma'am, we cannot speak to the second question in terms of the first responders that went in. We could defer that to the Newark Fire Department. Can you repeat your first question again, please?
Projected timeline?
Yeah, so projected timeline. At this point, the fire is going to burn for a couple more days probably. It's impossible to give you really any kind of definitive timeline. Don and John are going through doing their best to do assessment, but as the captain said, our primary objective is safety. So we are going to do the utmost to make sure that we do our best to fight this fire, but we're going to do it with the safety of responders as our first objective. As and when we move through this process, we will most certainly let people know what we project, but at this point it's impossible. Yes.
Next question. Right here.
Okay, this is for the port director, for the Port Authority, and for the public safety director, for the state high post. And I'd like to go on to the federal officer. That's the most important thing. But moving forward, I wanted to ask those 2 directors, is there an agreement between the city of Newark and the Port Authority in terms of the response to fires at the port, and in particular shipboard fires? And does it spell out how and the kind of equipment and what the fire department will need to respond to those attitudes?
Yes, there is an agreement with the police department, Port Authority, and the port in reference to how we respond to fires here at the port. We respond to all structure fires that they have. Those agreements are ongoing and continued collaboration as they go forward. We continue to have these conversations today and going forward. We're currently scheduling some training with the police and the fire in reference to fires that happen here. There's going to be some more coordination and collaboration with the police department and Port Authority on how we navigate and we actually mitigate some of the fires that may happen on these ports. These are all continued, and we can discuss that at a later time further.
If Mr. Hill, if I can just add to that?
Sure.
Yeah. So, as Mr. Fritz said, there are agreements in place, and we rely very heavily on the local municipalities around all of the Port Authority facilities. I believe many, in the media are familiar with the Port Authority's aircraft rescue teams and the fire brigades that are at the airports. Those are unique to the airports. Those are required by federal aviation regulations. And they are not fire departments. They are there strictly to respond to the first 10 minutes or so and be able to evacuate the plane. And then we rely on the likes of Newark Fire Department and the New York City Fire Department. So We do not have a fire department within the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. We do currently rely on the local municipalities, but again, as this investigation unfolds, everything is on the table for consideration.
Confirm that there was a discrepancy in the hose connection on the ship being an inch and the equipment that the fire department had being 2.5 inches. Was that the issue at all, that there was equipment mismatch in the initial item time?
I would say that is currently a part of our investigation. We can't confirm that at this point in time, but it's a part of what we're looking at in the investigation, and that information will come out then.
Jerry Darbo, 611 News. For the Coast Guard or any other agency that's appropriate to assets, is there any discussion about the Coast Guard giving specialized training to either Newark Fire Department or the Elizabeth Fire Department for these types of incidents?
Roger, thank you for the question. Actually, a part of what we do as far as the Coast Guard and a federal entity, we have a fire task force that is a part of a New Jersey Fire Task Force, and they actually come together and we train with them on a regular basis. So while Newark Fire Department was the first people on scene, being that they were closest, you also know there were other fire departments that also deployed and was a part of this response. We will continue to do that training, but it is a part of what we do and we oversee on a regular basis here in the port.
A follow-up question for that. I'm so sorry. Is there any discussion about the port having its own fire department?
Yeah, again, as I mentioned, earlier, as the investigations unfold and we get lessons learned from these, everything is on the table for consideration. If I can add to Captain Merchant's comments about the task force, one of the major lessons learned from 9/11 as we evaluated, the overall risk to the port and the port community was an understanding of the unique environment, as has been described several times. Marine firefighting is a very complex and challenging environment. So as part of the Area Maritime Security Committee, which is required by federal law under the captain's guidance, I actually was the founding chair of that back in 2002. Joe Farley is the current chair. We actually created this task force that allows us to ensure that departments have the proper marine firefighting resources, and we also provide training. The New Jersey Department of Homeland Security is a major player within that, and we provide both classroom training to our local municipal fire agencies and shipboard orientation training. In fact, starting next week with a new cohort of firefighters in the region, we were scheduled to come into the container terminals in order to get on board container ships. And that's just one of dozens of evolutions of these trainings that we've done over the last 2 decades.
Christine Sloan with CBS. Good morning. How often do you do these trainings with firefighters in this area? And why is there no special unit? We've been seeing these fires for many, many years on cargo ships. First of all, how often are these trainings? When was the last time New York had a training like this? And why is there no specialized unit dealing with such fires on ships?
And one thing, I'll speak quickly on the federal level, because we do training, but they also do training at the local level. But the trainings that we do are regular, and what you see even with FDNY being on scene, it's more than just what we have here in the New Jersey area. It is a regional support that we get whenever we're dealing with a marine or shipboard firefighting, and that is training that is done here in this area locally, as well as throughout the New York and New Jersey area. And so that training is done regularly from a federal standpoint, and then they also conduct that training at a state and local level. And Chris, do you want to add anything else to that?
I just want to add that this is basically what we call mutual aid. So when we have large fires, there's mutual aid. Certain agencies have equipment that other agencies can't have due to financial constraints or personnel constraints. Like, for instance, The NYPD has a huge ship that comes into the water, and they can fight the fire from the water. We know they have that ship there, so when these calls are made, NYPD is notified to bring their ship on board to assist in that fire. We had, I believe, Westfield Fire, Jersey City, Hudson County. When we have fires that are overwhelming, besides the fact that we have to call our firefighters to come fight the fire on the port, we have to call mutual aid to have certain cities go back to our firehouses in Newark to ensure that if there's a fire in Newark, we could also mitigate those circumstances. So if we pull out all hands on deck, well, 10 of our units have to go to this fire, we'll call the surrounding towns and they'll backfill. So the training is done at the local level, which includes to the state level, and then the county and with Port Authority. It's ongoing. It's important. We do it together in a sense, and that's how we do the training.
Last question. Another question, please. We had a feeding problem. If you could please repeat exactly what your operational plan is for today, and do you have a fear of any sort of deck collapse within the cargo ship?
Yeah, first I'd like to start on behalf of Don John Smith, giving our condolences to the firefighters lost in the initial response. Our plan for today is to contain the fire, to cool the vessel so the fire no longer spreads throughout the vessel, to keep it toward the top decks where it's currently located. We're also working on dewatering the vessel, getting rid of the water that is being put on the vessel via the fire pumps, and taking some of the list out of the vessel so that it becomes more stable. The vessel currently remains stable at this period in time, but our goal is to always get it back to what we call an even keel, which is level.
Is there a fear of any sort of deck collapse within the structure?
There is structural issues always caused by fire within a steel vessel, so we are monitoring that at all times and making sure that we don't put any people in the vessel that could be harmed by any collapse.
Last question.
Great, thank you very much. Aaron, more about that. I hear you say it, I think I get it, but what's burning and why can't you put it out? And then how severe is the list? What's causing it? And is there any danger of the thing sinking, tipping? What's the prognosis?
So shipboard fires are very unique. They're constantly changing. Every single one's different. You can do all the training in the world, and you're going to find something you've never seen before on a shipboard fire. So access is tough. The heat is extreme. It's a steel box, so it's a very complex situation, and you need a very good plan to be able to put firefighters in the vessel to actually put out these fires. It's burning very hot, so currently a lot of the decks that are burning and the cars that are burning are inaccessible to our fire teams. So the best situation is to cool the vessel from the perimeter using the fire boats and using hoses from on shore, and to try to keep the fire from spreading. The water going on the vessel is a concern because it does sometimes cause a list in the vessel or a tipping to either left or right, port or starboard. And we monitor that, and we can reduce that by pumping the water off as it's coming on.
So it's basically a high-rise fire, both, right?
I can't speak to high-rise fires. I'm not a land guy. I'm a water guy, so I don't know.
I apologize. That's all the time we have for questions. Name?
My name is Gordon Lawrenson, and I'm project manager for Don John Smith.
All right, and I'll be available after this for any names and spellings and titles, and we'll keep you all informed with ongoing news releases and any future press conferences. Thank you very much, and have a great day.